Okay, so today we're adding, subtracting, and multiplying. So there's a typo there, but we're multiplying complex numbers. So when we have just normal old square root of 25, we can say it's 5. When we have the square root of 16, we can say it's 4. But when we have the square root of negative 36, we run into a problem. We need to think of two numbers that are just alike that make a negative 36. 6 times 6 is 36. Two numbers that are just alike, that makes a 36 also. Both of them are positive 36s. So is there a number that a number that's the same that multiplies to make a negative 36? I don't think there is. So what we have to do, it explains here, when we have negative 36, or numbers like negative 36, a whole new number system had to be created, and they call that the complex number system. So to define complex numbers, we use a new number that's denoted by the letter I. Okay, so the imaginary number I equals the square root of negative 1. So there is another typo here. Okay, so from the definition it follows that I squared equals, so mark that out, equals negative 1. You might want to just rewrite it. I squared equals negative 1. So anytime we end up with an I squared, we have a negative 1. All right. So now we can do the square root of 81, negative 81. Okay, we can say that that's negative 1 and 81, and the square root of negative 81, or excuse me, of negative 1 is I. So we put an I there, and the square root of 81 is 9. So you really get a 9I. So let's do another one. And I'm going to show you a shortcut in just a minute. Okay, so negative 4 could be written as a negative 1 and a positive 4. We can take the square root of positive 4. You just really can't take the square root of a negative number because you just can't, like we proved up here with the 36. So the square root of a positive 4 is 2, and the square root of negative 1 is I. And so you kind of reverse it and say it's 2I. So from that we can conclude anytime you have a negative, you can just pull it underneath the square root sign. You can just pull that negative out and call it an I. And then the square root of 49 is 7. So you have 7I. Okay, so moving all along here. You have a complex number. A is the real part, and B is the imaginary part. So anytime you have an I, the I's are generally not used like when you're doing just normal algebra. They save the I's for all of this square root complex number stuff. So that means that there's an imaginary number. So the real part is 7. The imaginary part is 6I. This is no big deal. Okay, the real part is 3. The imaginary part is negative 5I. You also might want to notice how I make my little eyes with a tail. You might want to do that so they don't look like ones. Or you can make your eye like a cursive eye or with a little tail. It's kind of up to you, but try to make your eyes not look like ones. You don't want to mess up. Okay, real part is 2 and imaginary part is I. Okay, so now let's do adding and subtracting complex numbers. It's not hard at all. All you do is combine like terms, okay? So this is a plus, so we don't have to worry about anything. We can just say 5 plus 2. Those are alike. Those are just normal numbers, is 7. And then we're going to put our i's together. A negative 7 plus a 4i, a negative 7i plus a 4i is negative 3i, and that's all there is to it. You could even write it like this. It's not technically wrong to write it the other way. Okay, over here, notice that's a plus, so we don't need to distribute a negative. You know, we don't need to do that. Okay, so we're just going to combine like terms. A -4 and a -8 is a -12, and then the 7i, the -7i, doesn't have any friends, so he just has to stay by himself. And again, you could reverse it. I mean, if you ended up writing it like that, it's not really wrong. Just make sure your signs are correct. Okay, so I probably am working too many here. Let's see here. Okay, so here's a good one to work. We have a negative we need to distribute. We just got finished doing that on some other problems. So we have to distribute this negative. That means everybody's sign changes. And now we combine like terms. So distribute and then combine like terms. Okay, so we get a -10 plus 10i. So we really probably don't need to do D, at least right now. Okay, let's do this long one here. I know y'all might be kind of freaking out about this one just because it's long. So you just scan along here and go, oh look, I need to distribute that negative. I don't need to do anything here with this positive. So you have -3 plus 4i plus 3 plus 3i plus 6i. Now look for like terms. Put all the normal numbers together. Plain consonants, not consonants, that's the alphabet. Put your constants together. Okay, -3 plus 3, oh, that's a 0. And then 4i and 3i is 7i. And 6i is 13i. So we really don't need to write the 0. So we have 13i. Okay, so now that was kind of adding and subtracting in a nutshell. Nothing too exciting about that. You can do that. What you really need to worry about is this. Okay, I squared equals -1. That was on the first page of the notes, and here it is again. So now we're multiplying, and we have a high chance of coming up with an I squared. If an I times an I gets multiplied together, it's going to make a I squared, and then we're going to change it to a -1. So watch and listen. Okay, so we're going to distribute this 7. So we get -35 plus 21i. So you definitely want your I to look like an I and not a 1 here, so you got to be careful. So nothing too unusual happened here. Piece of cake. Okay, so here we have 6i times 6i equals 36i squared. So anytime you have a I squared, you make it into a -1, because that's what it says to do right here. I squared equals -1. Okay. And you get a -36. Okay? Then, let's look at E. Raise it up just a little bit. So here, you have nothing right there, so that means multiplication. When it's multiplication, that's when you do FOIL. Okay, don't add those together. There's not an addition sign right there. So we're going to do like the FOIL thing, or 2 distribution problems. Okay, you multiply -4 times -2, get +8. -4 times -6i, you get plus 24i. Now it's -6i's turn. Make sure you pick up the negative in front of the 6i. So you get positive 12i. And then a -6i times a -6i would be a positive 36i squared. So you have a couple of options here. You can combine like terms first, or you can take care of your I squared first. Okay? I tend to kind of just start over on the left and go back across, but that's up to you. So I end up combining the like terms first. So 8 plus 24 and 12i, it's just combining like terms, is 36i. And then I have a 36i squared but I squared becomes a -1. Right here, like that. So then that makes it 8 plus 36i minus 36. A 36 times a -1 is a -36. Now you got to combine like terms again, put those little guys together right there, and you get 8 minus 36 is -28 plus 36i. Okay? Then I think all the rest of them you can do. Let me just show you here. I'm not going to work the whole thing, but a -7 plus 3i squared would mean to do this, write it, multiply it out twice and do FOIL on it. Okay? Okay. So we're good. Okay.